Hello, what's going on, everybody? I am Troy. I am the average conservative, and welcome to the second video in my YouTube channel. As I stated in my first one, my only purpose is to inform people and not to persuade anyone on anything. I just want people to know what they're talking about when they speak about politics or what have you. And so, moving forward, I want to go over a few definitions of words that I hear they're used all the time by people that obviously don't know what they mean. So I wanted to start out with the word fascist. A fascist is basically someone who promotes or believes in fascism. Fascism is a political, philosophy or a government that basically puts the country or the nation above the good of the people. So it's all about what's best for the country and not for the individual. And that is typically led by a dictator. So, perfect example, Nazi Germany was a fascist country. Hitler was the dictator. And to go over the dictator, a dictator is a person that has unlimited authority. So those that say Trump is a dictator, very wrong. He does not have unlimited authority. He has to go through a lot of red tape. He has to get approval through Congress. He gets stopped on a lot of things by federal judges. So we have a system of checks and balances that limit his authority. He's not a fascist. He's not anywhere near a fascist. If he is a dictator, he's the worst one in history. Sounds ridiculous, but that's what they think. They think he's a dictator. A king, that's a dictator. Someone has unlimited power. Trump has no unlimited power. So all this no kings stuff that's going on, it's pretty ridiculous. And a lot of people think so. But moving on, fascism, one of the main things that they do is they are known to silence the opposition. So in fascist Nazi Germany, anyone who opposed Hitler or the government, they were killed, they were imprisoned, they were silenced. Their voices were silenced. And it started even before Hitler took office. When the Nazi party was going out there getting started, they had a lot of political discussions. People would go out, have events, try to debate, try to discuss issues. And you had the Nazi party would show up in these brown shirts. They were known as the brown shirts. Now, they went there to shut the event down. If someone was speaking out against, the whole philosophy that they were trying to support, the whole concept of Nazism, then, yeah, they were drowned out, silenced. And then it just got worse once, they got into power. And so that is fascism. Conservatives are not about fascism. We do not want, anyone's voice to be suppressed. Even if we don't agree with you, we will fight for your right to be able to say what you want to say. No one can give me one example, a single one example where a liberal speaker was silenced by conservative people, where they pulled the fire alarm or shouted them out with a bullhorn and made a lot of noise so nobody can hear their speech. Nothing. If we don't agree with what you say, we just don't go. I ignore those that I don't agree with. I'm not going to go to their events. And if I go, I might go to try to talk with them. And if they don't want to talk to me, then I leave. And that's what conservatives, support. We support dialogue. We support debate, free speech. We want people talking. We want people to discuss the issues. We want people involved in government. I want to see more people out there getting involved in government on all levels, local, state, federal, but I want them to get involved and learn on their own, not just listen to certain voices and then go with that. Stop being sheep, people. You need to go and see the truth for yourself. Perfect example is how people see police officers. They just believe the cops are racist. They believe cops are this, cops are that. They don't understand what cops deal with every day and what makes cops tick. Like, why do they do the things they do? What makes them think the way they do? So go talk to police officers. Go do a ride along. You know, nothing wrong with asking the cop his opinion on this or that or what have you. The ones that I've talked to, they'll talk to you. They have no problems with having a discussion with you unless they're busy doing something else. But, you know, go request a ride along. Ride along with a police officer, ask some questions, Ask them about, who they decide to pull over and why. My father was a police officer for many years. One of the things that he was accused of, like many police officers, was that he was pulling people over because of their race. Most of the time, he had no idea who was even driving the car because he either was looking at his radar gun or he was looking at his computer because he saw the license plate and he decided to type it in because the person was driving erratically or what have you. Something just kind of looked off, or he just did a random check on someone's license plate because, honestly, he was kind of bored or something. But once he saw it stolen or something like that, yeah, he went over and pulled them over. So it's not about race, and people make that an issue all the time. So learn about yourself. This is what conservatives want. We want people to get involved, to learn, and to talk. We do not want the opposition of speech. Moving along, I'll quickly go over socialism and capitalism, communism. So socialism is basically an economic system where there is no private ownership of the means of production. There's no private ownership of businesses. Everything is either owned by the state or owned by the collective, which is, it could be by the community or it could be by the state. Well, not the state like the government, but like for us, it would be our state, like Texas or, North Carolina, Florida, whatever. And so another popular view is they want businesses to be owned by the workers, the collective of the workers. And so that is socialism. Communism is socialism on steroids. It's basically where the means of production is owned by a totalitarian government and it is enforced at gunpoint. So North Korea, communist nation. You don't abide by what they're telling you to do, they will send soldiers with guns and they'll kill you. And so that is communism, which is basically socialism, but, worse. Then we have capitalism. That's what America is right now, which is private ownership of most things. Of course, we have military, which is controlled by the government. It's not privatized, police, fire department, things like that. But, private ownership of the means of production, all your goods and services, grocery stores, cell phone companies, you name it, it's going to be private ownership. And a lot of people say, well, it's greedy. Greed drives that. Well, yes, at times, but it's not necessarily greedy just to want to make money, because a lot of businesses give back. If you want a good example, do a search on YouTube for the Fat Electrician for his discussion of H-E-B, which is a grocery store chain in Texas. H-E-B is known as the FEMA of Texas. They give back to the community big time. They're a great, great company a lot of people support. And so look that up, check that out, But anyhow, greed, not necessarily true. It's, just the acquisition of wealth doesn't necessarily mean you're greedy, because a lot of those people are willing to give back. They're willing to help others with the money that they've got. And so that also does generate innovation. Cell phone companies want to make money to make better products. If you notice, we're not using flip phones so much anymore. You're not doing text messages by hitting buttons multiple times just to hit one character. We have smartphones now. Technology's advanced because people made new products. They innovated to make money. And so flat screens, another thing, flat screen TVs, big money makers. You know, we don't have these big, heavy cathode ray tube televisions anymore. Now it's flat screen, a lot better. It's created by someone who wanted to make money. So that's capitalism. So out of the three, conservatives support capitalism. And so that's what we want. So I will go ahead and end the discussion here. If you're still with me, I appreciate you staying with me. And just make sure to keep the discussion going. Don't stop talking. Don't stop listening to the opinions of others. If you don't agree with it and it's starting to make you upset, don't even get upset. Just walk away. Be peaceful, agree to disagree. And I wish everyone well and good health. Semper Fi. And keep the discussion going.